Hey everybody, it's Allie with Cruise Blog. Today we're going to be talking about one of my favorite cruise lines, Royal Caribbean. We'll be going through the entire fleet by age from the oldest ships to their newest ones. Let's get into it. One of the most popular cruise lines today is Royal Caribbean, which had a humble beginning when founded in 1968. Their first ship, the Song of Norway, was launched 2 years later in 1970. Though a much more modest vessel compared to today's cruising standards, this ship was revolutionary. Royal Caribbean continued to build and release more ships, but things really started to set off when the cruise line debuted Freedom-class ships, which were the largest cruise ships in the world until 2009 with the introduction of the Oasis class. Royal Caribbean International has charted a remarkable course as the company continues to break its own records while remaining innovative and pushing the boundaries of what is possible while at sea. Each Royal Caribbean ship is unique and gives cruisers the option to sail on the largest ship in the world or a smaller ship like Grandeur of the Seas. So here are the Royal Caribbean ships from oldest to newest. Up first is Grandeur of the Seas, built in 1996. Part of Royal Caribbean's Vision class, Grandeur of the Seas is one of the smallest ships, measuring 73,000 gross registered tons. She is also the cruise line's oldest ship at sea, a title she gained after Monarch of the Seas, which was Royal Caribbean's last Sovereign-class ship, and Empress of the Seas, as they were sold in 2020. Compared to newer ships, Grandeur of the Seas might appear to be pretty bare. She offers a no-frills cruising experience with limited options on board that deliver the wow factor that the cruise line has come to be known for. On board, though, you will find an adults-only solarium with a retractable roof, a rock wall, and a pool deck for all ages to enjoy. Next is Rhapsody of the Seas, built in May of 1997. 1 year after the launch of Grandeur of the Seas, another Vision-class ship began sailing. Like her sister, Rhapsody of the Seas can fit less than 2,000 people at double occupancy. Next is Enchantment of the Seas, built in July of 1997. Enchantment of the Seas is only a few months younger than Rhapsody of the Seas. She stands out in that she received a new mid-body section in 2005. This lengthened the ship by 73 feet and increased her gross registered tonnage to over 80,000. 151 new staterooms were also added, as well as new venues and amenities. Next is Vision of the Seas, built in 1998. Vision of the Seas was the last ship in the Vision class to be constructed. Although referred to as a class, the 6 ships were actually built in pairs of 2 sister ships, meaning that Vision of the Seas is most similar to Rhapsody of the Seas. In contrast, Enchantment was originally built to mimic Grandeur. The remaining 2 ships, Legend and Splendor, have since been sold. Next is Voyager of the Seas, built in 1999. Voyager of the Seas is the first ship in the cruise line's Voyager class and held the title of largest cruise ship in the world for 1 year until she was surpassed by Explorer of the Seas. The well-known Royal Promenade first debuted on Voyager of the Seas, and ever since, the Royal Promenade has been incorporated into every new build in some capacity for Royal Caribbean. On Quantum-class ships, for instance, it's known as the Royal Esplanade. Additionally, she was the first ship to ever feature an ice rink and rock climbing wall at sea. Next is Explorer of the Seas, built in 2000. Explorer of the Seas debuted after Voyager of the Seas, and she only weighed about 32 gross registered tons more when she set sail as the second in this class. Up next is Radiance of the Seas, launched in April of 2001. In 2001, Royal Caribbean launched a brand new class of ships known as the Radiance class. Radiance of the Seas cost around $338 million to build, and at 90,000 gross registered tons, has a gross tonnage significantly less than her Voyager class counterparts. Typically, she will make voyages to Alaska, the Bahamas, the Caribbean, Pacific Northwest, and the Panama Canal. Next is Adventure of the Seas, which was built in November of 2001. When constructed, Adventure of the Seas lacked some fan favorites, such as the Cyclone and Typhoon dual racing slides, the Flowrider surf simulator, Splashaway Bay, Izumi, Chops Grill, and Boleros. Thankfully, these were all added during a $61 million refit in 2016. She was the 5th ship in Royal Caribbean's fleet to undergo revitalization efforts. Up next was Brilliance of the Seas, built in July of 2002. The second Radiance-class ship to be built, Brilliance of the Seas set sail on her maiden voyage on July 15, 2002. When launched, she was the first cruise ship in the world to feature self-leveling pool tables. Here's a quick little fun fact about Brilliance of the Seas. In 2019, the world's largest pasta tasting event took place on board with a total of 468 people in attendance, and the event was led by executive chef on board. Up next is Navigator of the Seas, built in December of 2002. Navigator of the Seas was the first Voyager-class ship to feature wider balconies with glass windows. Today, she is one of 2 ships in the fleet to have the Bamboo Room, which is a tiki-inspired cocktail bar. Likewise, she received the cruise line's resort-style pool deck during her $115 million dry dock in 2019. Next is Serenade of the Seas, built in August of 2003. Royal Caribbean's first ever world cruise was on board Serenade of the Seas, which is a 90,000 gross registered ton vessel launched in 2003. Over the course of 274 nights, she sailed to more than 150 destinations across 65 countries and visited 11 great wonders of the world. Next is Mariner of the Seas, built in November of 2003. The last Voyager-class ship was launched in 2003. Over the years, though, they have been refitted to keep them updated, and in 2018, Mariner of the Seas received a $120 million amplification. Although Mariner of the Seas sailed from Port Canaveral for a while, she is now in Galveston, Texas. Jewel of the Seas is actually Royal Caribbean's last Radiance-class ship, and many consider her to be the last small cruise ship that Royal Caribbean decided to build, as the cruise line has been focusing on building bigger and better ships with the biggest ships in the world. Up next is Freedom of the Seas, built in 2006. Freedom of the Seas was launched in 2006, and while the ship drew inspiration from Voyager-class ships, she is technically larger, measuring 156,000 gross registered tons and 1,111 feet long. In comparison, Voyager of the Seas comes in at 137,000 gross registered tons, so she's just a little bit bigger. Upon her completion, she became the largest cruise ship ever built, and Royal Caribbean ships have held that title ever since. Next is Liberty of the Seas, built in 2007. Each Freedom-class ship offers something unique that cannot be found on another. Freedom, for instance, has a resort-style pool deck, while Liberty of the Seas has the tidal wave, which is the only boomerang-style water slide in the fleet. Unfortunately, Liberty of the Seas did not get its dry dock upgrades as originally scheduled in 2020. She did, however, receive some enhancements in 2016 that added a collection of water slides, including the first-ever boomerang-style slide at sea, the tidal wave, and Splashaway Bay. Next is Independence of the Seas, built in 2008. Independence of the Seas first set sail in 2008, and 10 years later, she underwent a dry dock and got the first trampoline park at sea. Dubbed the Skypad, the virtual reality bungee experience has now been retired from all 4 ships that it was on. Currently, Independence of the Seas sails from Florida and makes anywhere from 3-night Bahamas cruises to 7-night Western Caribbean cruises. Up next is Oasis of the Seas, built in 2009. Oasis of the Seas redefined the family vacation. The cruise ship, which was the first to surpass 200,000 gross registered tons, was the first to be divided into themed neighborhoods, all of which focus on providing a different experience. Moreover, she was the first cruise ship to feature a zip line, which lets guests soar 9 decks above the boardwalk. She was last renovated in 2019, and during this, her gross registered tonnage increased to 226,000 gross registered tons due to the additional cabins added to Deck 14. Next is Allure of the Seas, built in 2010. The second Oasis-class ship is Allure of the Seas, which launched 1 year after Oasis. Allure of the Seas recently underwent a $100 million revitalization, bringing new features on board like the pesky parrot bar, the ultimate abyss slide, mason jar specialty restaurant, perfect storm water slides, and more. Next is Quantum of the Seas, built in 2014. Quantum-class vessels were designed to function in both warm and cold weather conditions, and for this reason they have more indoor areas than other Royal Caribbean ships, such as the Seaplex. The Seaplex boasts numerous activities throughout the cruise, such as dance and exercise classes, pickleball, soccer, roller skating, and bumper cars. Quantum of the Seas also features an observation capsule that takes guests 300 feet above sea level. Next is Anthem of the Seas, built in 2015. Anthem of the Seas is the second Quantum-class ship for Royal Caribbean. The remaining 3 Quantum-class ships have the upgraded Splashaway Bay for children, but in comparison, Anthem of the Seas has the H2O zone. Her first ever voyage took place on April 22, 2015. Anthem of the Seas recently completed a dry dock in Singapore and will currently sail between Asia and Australia. Up next is Ovation of the Seas, built in April 2016. 2016 was a busy year for Royal Caribbean as they had 2 ships launch within 2 months of each other. The first, Ovation of the Seas, left on April 16th, with Harmony of the Seas following on May 29th. Ovation of the Seas is one of 2 ships in the entire fleet to feature dining venue fish and chips, with the other being Independence of the Seas. Here, you can find items such as fish and chips, chicken fingers, and deep-fried candy bars. Next is Harmony of the Seas, built in May of 2016. Following Royal Caribbean's 6-year break from releasing new Oasis-class ships, Harmony of the Seas set sail in May of 2016. She differs from her two younger sisters in that she features redesigned cabins and is the only Oasis-class ship that does not have a pool inside of the adults-only solarium. When she was launched, she was the only ship to feature the Ultimate Abyss and Perfect Storm water slides. But since then, these amenities have been added to Oasis of the Seas, and many other ships throughout Royal Caribbean's fleet have received the water slide as well. Next is Symphony of the Seas, built in 2018. Symphony of the Seas held the record as the world's largest cruise ship for just about 4 years until Wonder of the Seas set sail in 2022. Compared to Harmony of the Seas, Symphony has a higher gross registered tonnage, measuring 228,000 versus Harmony's 226,000. Next is Spectrum of the Seas, built in 2019. Spectrum of the Seas is Royal Caribbean's first Quantum Ultra-class ship, which is similar to regular Quantum class. For that reason, they should be thought of as a subclass instead of an entirely different class. Moreover, Spectrum of the Seas was designed for an Asian cruising market. It, for instance, is the only ship in the fleet to have Leaf and Bean, a coffee and tea spot that is located in the Royal Esplanade. Next is Odyssey of the Seas, built in 2021. Like Spectrum of the Seas, Odyssey of the Seas is not identical to other Quantum-class ships. On board, guests will find that the main dining room is unified as opposed to separate dining rooms. Moreover, there is a teppanyaki restaurant in addition to just sushi. Odyssey of the Seas can hold close to 5,500 guests, while Ovation's maximum capacity is closer to 4,900. Next is Wonder of the Seas, built in 2022. Wonder of the Seas is the 5th Oasis-class ship and was the largest cruise ship in the world until Icon of the Seas was delivered to Royal Caribbean's fleet. She is unlike any of the other Oasis-class ships in that she only has one flowrider. In place of the other one, guests will find Wonder Playscape, which is an underwater-themed playground that has slides, climbing walls, games, and puzzles. Next is Icon of the Seas, built in January 2024. Icon of the Seas is the world's largest cruise ship and the first new class of ships from Royal Caribbean since 2014. She measures 250,000 gross registered tons, making her 6% bigger than Wonder of the Seas. Not only can you find the largest water park at sea on board, but there's also a brand new family-focused neighborhood called Surfside. Adults get an upgraded escape as well at the Hideaway, and there is so much to do on board Icon of the Seas, which sets sail from Miami and sails to the Eastern and Western Caribbean. Next is Utopia of the Seas, which was built in July of 2024. The 6th Oasis-class ship embarked on her maiden voyage in July of 2024. Utopia of the Seas is the ultimate weekend trip, offering 3- and 4-night cruises from Port Canaveral to Nassau in perfect day. She is most similar to Wonder of the Seas, however. Utopia also offers some unique experiences that you can't find on other Oasis-class ships, such as the first ever immersive train car dining experience and the Pesky Parrot Bar. Similarly, Utopia is the only Oasis-class ship with Izumi in Central Park, allowing guests to enjoy their favorite rolls al fresco. And finally, we have Star of the Seas. Royal Caribbean's second Icon-class ship will enter service in August of 2025. Star of the Seas will sail from Orlando, Florida to the Eastern and Western Caribbean. Royal Caribbean has already announced some changes to the second Icon-class vessel. Empire Supper Club, for instance, will be themed after Chicago rather than New York City. And finally, Royal Caribbean recently announced Legend of the Seas will be built and introduced in 2026. Royal Caribbean's third Icon-class ship will launch in 2026, and she will first debut in Europe before moving to Fort Lauderdale, Florida. All right, everybody, that is all we have for today. Thanks for tuning in, and be sure and like and subscribe to Cruise Blogs so that you can be notified every time we have a new video. Until next time, happy cruising.